mystery lies greatness. Some wait, hoping for their dreams to come true. We chase our dreams down. They keep searching for answers. We question the answers and discover new possibilities. Why? Because we dare to choose different. We choose us. We choose Verve. Ask your bank for your Verve card today. Verve, the rewarding way to make payments. Business Express.
Let's do it.
To you by InterSwitch. Transaction solutions you can depend
Lights
on.
are up.
Lagos City, good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Smooth 98.1 FM. It is Business Express. It is I, Rotus, your humble presenter of the show. It is we're here live. It's a new Monday with 2 days. It's Christmas Eve, the eve of Christmas 23rd of December. We are on YouTube, www.youtube.com/smooth91fm. You can also send your messages on WhatsApp 0809-444-0981. So a number of things that we need to talk about. It's just you and I today, Lagos. It's just you and I. So sending your messages. That is if you haven't already traveled, because the roads were free this morning, incredibly free. And I don't know if I want some of you to come back. So we can't keep the roads free. But of course, I want you wherever you are around the world. Still want you to keep listening to Smooth 91 FM. So remember our website, okay? www.smooth981.fm, wherever you are on the globe. Where do we begin? We begin with the CBN guidelines. Yesterday, Sunday, the CBN sent out some new guidelines reviewing bank charges, and there were some changes. They've reviewed them downwards. Hooray, hooray. We need to talk about this, though. So the central bank, through Mr. Isaac Okorafor, the bank's director of corporate communications, said that there's some new guidelines that are going to take effect from January the 1st, as of next Wednesday. Of course, I believe Christmas and New Year still fall on the same day. Next Wednesday, January the 1st of 2020. So he was briefing some newsmen while he was at a stakeholders meeting on the economy, and he was like, there were some highlights. One of the main highlights that people are really excited about is that the ATM fees are going to be reduced from 65 naira to 35 naira. Huh? How you feel about that? I like it. So as usual, you get 3 free withdrawals from any bank that's outside your network, and after the third one, you're going to have to pay the fee, which used to be 65 naira. Now it's 35 naira. He also said that on debit card charges, the new guide from the CBN to banks, there's a one-off charge now of 1,000 naira applied to the issuance of cards, irrespective of the type of card. So if it doesn't matter whether it's a regular card or whether it's premium or whatever it is, you're just going to pay that 1,000 naira fee. Also, something else that people are going to like. Bank customers, I believe they've now reviewed the they've reviewed downward the fees for electronic transfers. So remember, we used to pay 50 naira, right? Now they've reviewed that downwards as well. So bank customers will pay 10 naira for electronic transfers below 5,000 naira. 25 naira for electronic transfers between 5,000 and 50,000, and 50 naira for electronic transfers above 50,000. So this is good. This is good. What other changes did they actually make? I think they also make some changes to card maintenance fees as well. Oh, USSD transfers. So as far as you're going to be paying a charge of 100 naira per 20,000 naira charges. Subject to a cumulative 60,000 naira daily withdrawal. So the USSD charges are also going to be reduced as well, as far as those charges are concerned. What else? There was a number of charges. Now, why is the CBN doing this? This is the question. Why are they doing this? The head of communications, director of communications, corporate communications, said that, hey, look, you know what? They're doing this because they've sat down, they've thought about the fees that Nigerians are paying. They want to give them a break. This is all well and good. But I do have a question. Is it possible? I'm looking at the timing of this, right? And I also want to get your thoughts on the timing of this announcement coming through. Is it possible that the central bank is doing this to alleviate the possible pains in increase in other, expenses that Nigerians are going to be facing in the new year? We already know that electricity tariffs are going up. We know that VAT is going from 5% to 7.5. We don't know whether or not fuel subsidies are going to be, reduced slightly. We don't know what else is happening. But is it possible that the central bank decided to do this now because they already know what's coming next year, and Nigerians are going to be, really, really annoyed about a number of things, and that's why they're deciding to do this? It's a welcome development. It's a welcome development. I'm with the CBN on this. All right. Okay, we already have some messages here. Let's see what you folks think. Let's see. Sheon says, "I smell a tax increase." You see, Sheon, you smell what I'm cooking. What the central bank is cooking, eh? Ifeanyi from Iba, he says the reduction of bank charges by CBN is a welcome development, but I have my heart in my mouth as to the immediate implementation because CBN is notorious for policy somersault. No, Ifeanyi, there's no, don't be afraid of a policy somersault. They have said that is going to take effect on January the 1st of 2020. So from next week, I mean, this isn't something where they are putting it off till 3 months down the line. January 1st, 2020. Also, the banks, if they do not implement this, where is that fee? I think they said they're going to hit the banks like a 20,000 or is it a 1 million naira breach fee if they do not implement these new changes. So the banks have been put on alert. Speaking of the banks, what about the impact on the banks? Now, if we've reviewed bank performance, financial results, and we do that on the show, the quarterly results and so on and so on from the banks and different companies that are on the stock exchange. The banks have done very well as far as fees from electronic charges. So they will take a hit. They will take a hit as far as these fees are concerned because they are reducing them. Let's see now. Daniel from Surulere says, "Good morning, Rotus. This CBN news makes me glad, especially the ones that have to do with the interbank transfer. Hope they won't come to take away these monies in other ways." Daniel, that's the worry, because people have been calling for these fees to be reduced for quite a while now, and it's very interesting that they're deciding to do this to start the new year. As Sheon said in his own message, he smells a tax increase on the other side. MI for Fles here, thank you CBN, but what took you so long? The different charges were making people averse to electronic banking and leaning towards cash transactions, which is antithetical to its original policy. Waiting Rotus no go see for Business Express. Speaking of which, that POS charge, I believe that's in the finance bill. Once President Buhari signs that into law, then I believe that 15 naira fee for POS transactions goes from 1,000 naira to 10,000 naira. So we do need to see that in the finance bill once that is signed. Darlington from my papa, good morning, Rotus. I think the main reason this review is being done is because there's a huge tax burden coming in the new year. But as long as Mephi, that's Mr. Godwin and Mefele, for those of you that don't know, that's the name we call him affectionately. But as long as Mephi is concerned, I still suspect the guy. So there's a little bit of suspicion here from a couple people, but also other people are happy as well. All right, we have a message here from Janet. I think what's concerning too is how this affects e-banking income. Yeah, I just mentioned that the banks are already facing pressure on lower interest on government securities, just more pressure on the banks. Let's see now. Tony from Ugudi says, "Good morning, Ritual. What about that dreaded VAT fee? It's outrageous." Yeah, Tony, is going up, or VAT is going from 5% to 7.5. Don't forget, I believe there's like a consumption tax or so in Lagos State if you go to restaurants and so. So it's piling on. Good morning, Rotus. I believe this is another Ifeanyi from Ojo. I don't think it's yet on the CBN. I don't think it's what is this word? Uhuru yet on the recent CBN down review of charges. Yeah, there's much more surprises to come. Okay, yes, Ifeanyi is saying that there are possibly more surprises to come. Another angle to this, ladies and gentlemen, and I've said this in the past. Don't you think that the bank, now this is looking at electronic fees, ATM fees, and so on. Don't you think that the banks should be allowed to compete with these types of fees? Let me explain. And I think I've said it on the show in the past. In other climes, in the US, the UK, I think Kenya and other places, correct me if I'm wrong, the banks compete with fees. So Bank A can say, okay, you pay 35 naira for ATM. Bank B can say you pay 0. Bank C can pay, okay, you pay 50 naira. They should be allowed to compete. In fact, somebody, I think it was Standard Chartered that removed the number of fees. Somebody was bragging on Twitter that Standard Chartered customers, they don't need to see all this. So I think as far as electronic fees are concerned, because the bank already removed them. So anyway, welcome development. It's less pressure on us as far as these fees are concerned. But is there something else that's coming in the new year? 2020 is going to be incredibly interesting. All right, let's look at this Bloomberg article that just came out. I believe it was yesterday, and it was on. This is the headline: Lagos building luxury homes in the face of affordable housing crisis. Now, I should state off here, Lagos is not the only mega city that faces this, where you still see new luxury homes coming up when there are issues with affordable housing. It happens in all other climes, right? But Bloomberg just come out to say that, look, the African megacity is looking at rapid urbanization. The African megacity finds rapid urbanization as a barrier to growth. Living conditions are among the world's worst, according to a UN official. Let me quote the UN official. This is Lailani Farha, the United Nations Special Rapport on Housing. It says people in Lagos are living in some of the worst, if not the worst, conditions I've ever seen in the world. And I've been to all the big slums in India, Kenya, and South Africa. And so he's saying that, look, there is an affordable housing crisis. They need to address it. What's going on? We're still seeing luxury high rises popping up. Now, what is Lagos going to do about it? I know that they have mentioned the fact that they do want to build more affordable housing. There's I think Lagos Homes, a rent-to-own scheme that has been set up for people to be able to rent gradually towards ownership. But how many of us are able to take advantage of this? Yeah. And in fact, I want this conversation to go into the National Housing Fund, because I wanted to talk about this a few weeks back, but I didn't get a chance to. But hang on here. Let me get some more messages in. Kenneth from Aja. Hello, Rotus. The new CBN announcement is most welcome, but it is robbing Peter to pay Paul. Remember that VAT will go up to 7.5%, and there are other new charges in the future. Benga Kamu says, Rotus on the tin. I'm told the taxman can go into your account and tax you on all monies that pass through your account. Is that not an invasion of privacy? Benga, I haven't heard that. So that they can just jump into your account and take that out. I'll check on that. I haven't heard that, but I know that the tin is being required going forward for you to operate a bank account. That's your tax identification number for those that don't know. And there's also the Joint Tax Board website. You can go on there, get your tin, and also get a new one. Get a one if you don't have one, and also find out what the existing one is. Because if you are working in Nigeria, your company is paying tax on your head, so you have a tax identification number. Benga also continues, there are many houses that are empty because of its costs. Let the state government continue to build houses for the rich. Of course, he's being sarcastic when he says that. Now, Lagos, I was in Abuja 3 or 4 weeks ago. The telco company was testing 5G. We already know about that. I was struck by the number of empty houses that were in that particular state. I think I said this already. The Uber driver that took me to the airport back to Lagos was telling me that there's a particular property in Abuja that had been empty for 9 years. The National Housing Fund, ladies and gentlemen, for those of us that are in paid employment, 2.5% of your gross salary is withdrawn and deposit and contributed to the National Housing Fund. Now, of course, you can apply for up to, I believe it's 15 million naira in order to purchase, I believe it's either land or a completed building at a single-digit interest rate from the federal government. It makes sense. It makes sense. The federal government wants all of us to pitch in, right? All of us in paid employment to pitch in so that Nigerians can get housing, because what's the Nigerian dream? Housing is the Nigerian dream. However, ladies and gentlemen, how many of us have been able to get mortgages? According to this Bloomberg article, they're talking about Lagos, but they now looked at the wider country. There's only about 50,000 mortgages in the entire country, according to Bloomberg's data. 50,000 in a nation of how many? They also mentioned the housing deficit, which is 17 million units. That housing deficit number of 17 million, that thing has been bandied about for years. It probably has increased, right? So there's probably a larger housing deficit. And it's like, they said they've pegged about $360 million for it to actually be plugged almost on an annual basis. So it's huge. It's huge. But how many of us have been able to take advantage of the National Housing Fund? You have to go through a developer, yeah? You got to go through a developer to make the application. The developer will take your application, give it to a primary mortgage institution, and then your application is then taken up from there. Now, the question is this: is 15 million naira at a single-digit rate enough for us to get homes in Lagos? I'm only speaking for Lagos because that's where I live. It's possibly easier in other states. I was looking for a house, right? I'm at that stage where I need to settle down and probably start popping out some children. And I went to a developer and I was like, hey, look, can you please, because when they were advertising, they said you can use the National Housing Fund, we'll apply for you and you can get the money and then put it towards the home. Lagos, you know how much the home cost? The home was 25 million naira, right? So that means I still have to find 10 million extra naira on top of the 15 million, which I'm already paying for the National Housing Fund. And then the building wasn't even completed, right? It's the just the outside. So now complete the inside of the interior of the building, that's another 5 million. So I'm at 30 million already. So the thing is, and in the Bloomberg article, they also mentioned this, because of inflation that's in double digits, because of the cost of building materials, some of which have to be imported. For Lagos, so speaking for Lagos, for developers, it is expensive to put up some of these completed buildings, and they're not going to give you, as far as loans are concerned, rates that are in single digits. It's in double digits. So it's just not affordable, and there is still such a large housing gap. When is this going to be addressed? How soon? As for the National Housing Fund, I don't know how you guys feel, but I think that fund should be put towards rent. They should just allow people to take from that fund and rent. Think about this. If you've been working in paid employment for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and 2.5% of your gross salary has been taken out on a monthly basis, how much have you contributed so far? How much? How much have you raised so far? Is there any record as to how much you have in there, how much you've pitched in? So these are the kind of things that we need to look into as far as housing is concerned. Benga Kamu comes back. Read Simon Kolawole's article in yesterday's This Day paper. You find the claim there. Okay, he's referring to the tin issue. Ifeanyi says, Ifeanyi from Rotus, can't these luxury homeowners have to pay taxes as opposed to taxing people struggling to live? I remember somebody mentioned that, Ifeanyi, thank you for that suggestion. Someone, I think it was from the UN or somebody else, saying that they should tax empty homes, which will force the people who own them to quickly rent them out. Who else is there? Mudupe says 15 million will help. The 25 million home is typical in Lagos and Abuja, not in Ibadan, Abeokuta, or Enugu. The real problem is getting the 15 million first. You apply and it takes years to get the money disbursed. That is from Mudupe. Thank you for that message. Lukman says from Bagada, Lagos homes with Ilubering is going for 100 million. It's a mirage so far. So thank you for that, Lukman. So, there's still the issues of the cost. But again, as Modupe has said, other states are less. But Modupe, what am I going to do? I live in Lagos. I can't move to Enugu, although I've said I wanted to move to Enugu. Unless, of course, there's technology from Smooth FM that allows me to live in another state and broadcast. So there's still a number of things that we have to go through here. Let's see how Maruzzi says, quite right, Rotus, these banks can compete in terms. Okay, this is back to the issue of fees and whether to allow the CBN should allow the banks to set their own ATM and electronic transfer fees. So Maruzzi says, quite right, Rotus, these banks can compete in terms of fees, but choose not to. Most of the banks pay as well as a 5 naira service fee to NABs for instant interbank transfers. Their charge customer $50, 50 naira. No, Maruzzi, it's not that you can do that. This is mandated by the CBN. So these are CBN mandates. Like the ATM fee, it's now, as of the 1st of January, it's going to be 35 naira. The banks don't have the room to charge what they want, but we wish they could. Okay, John, I see your message. Tony, I see your message. We will continue tomorrow. Thank you all for your messages. There's still a whole lot more to talk about. Fitch downgraded Nigeria. They mentioned a lot of issues with where the economic direction of the country is going. We'll get into that tomorrow. Also, the governor of Oyo State, Mr. Seyi Makinde, he had a very interesting media chat where he talked about minimum wage in Oyo State and a number of other things. I thought he was very honest, so we'll get into that tomorrow. But thank you all for tuning in to Business Express on Spoon 98.1 FM. I'll catch you all tomorrow again at 6:40 a.m.
Brought to you by EduSwitch.